Ooh, welcome everyone to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host, Scotty McCoy, and boy, do I have a surprise for all of you. I have on Zoom with me right now Dinah Manoff, and she played Maggie Peterson in the Child's Play, the original Child's Play, and she also has a book coming out. Hey, Dinah, how you doing?
I'm doing just great, Slasher Scotty. How are you doing?
I am doing great. I'm so glad to make this happen. We've actually been in talks for a couple of months to set this up. Probably a half a year now, I would say, something like that. I think I reached out in 2020, I believe.
Yeah, sometime during the pandemic, but
Yep.
time really fades kind of together in the pandemic. So
Absolutely. I think it was in the fall of 2020 I reached out and you said you have a book coming out and you would like to, promote that a little bit. And I'm like, absolutely. Well, I will definitely reach out to you in 2021 in the spring. And that's exactly what I did. And we made this happen.
yeah.
So I'm very happy. So before we get into the actual questions, I did want to tell you a story about Child's Play. Because I interviewed Alex Vincent, I told him the story. I interviewed Christina Lisa and told her the story. I always tell the Child's Play people, the actors and actresses and all that, the story about this. So I have to tell you.
I hope it's not about how we scarred you as a child.
Not me. And I don't think it was you neither, although it did backfire on me. I will admit that. But I was younger. I was maybe 12-ish, 13-ish, and my cousin is quite a number of years younger than me. She's about, I'd say, she was probably around at the time 6 years old or so. And I asked her if she wanted to watch a movie with me. She's like, sure. And she's like, yeah, I would love to watch a movie with you, Scotty. So I'm like, okay. She's like, what movie we want to watch? She said, how about we watch Toy Story? So she's like, oh, yeah, I love Toy Story. Let's watch Toy Story. I'm like, okay, awesome. So I put in the movie and, she's 6 years old. She's not going to remember the entire movie from start to finish. Well, she's like, this looks a little funny. This doesn't look like Toy Story. I said, oh, don't worry. It's Toy Story. There's a lot of toys in it and it's a story. So we started watching it. Let's just say it was Child's Play. And she was terrified of Chucky for years. And let's just say I saw Child's Play maybe one time before that, and I wasn't afraid of it at the time because I was younger, but it was a couple years past, so I didn't think much of it. But this time around, I got scarred from it. Every time I would go into a Spencer's, every time I would go anywhere, I was terrified of Chucky.
Yeah, well, Chucky was pretty scary, and I hope they never left you alone with your cousin again.
She's in college now. She's like 21, 22 now, and we always laugh about that. She's like, you remember the time you basically, scarred me for life with Chucky?
What's your cousin's name?
Her name is Destiny.
Destiny, from me to you, if you need to talk this through, I'm here for you.
Awesome. So getting into the questions, the first question I do got for you is, how did you get your start into acting?
Well, I grew up basically in a show business family. My mother is an actress named Lee Grant, who has also done some horror pictures. She did The Omen 2, which was pretty amazing.
Yes.
And then she did a terrible picture called The Swarm about killer bees, which I highly recommend if you've never seen it, just for a good laugh.
Absolutely.
So I grew up in that family. And when I was a teenager, I was not very good in school and I didn't like sitting still. And when it came time for me to make a living, I really felt like the only choice I had was to rely on the only talent I had at the time, which was acting. And so I just started, auditioning just like everyone else, but I had the advantage of having parents who knew people, and I got an agent, and my very first job was on an episode of Welcome Back, Kotter, which you're too young to remember, maybe. But
I actually do watch that. I live in Maryland now, but I go home every weekend mostly. I actually didn't go home this weekend so I could do the interview. But because I wanted to really have you on, and I knew this date would work. So, but I usually go home every weekend. It's about a 3-hour drive, and we get on the local station there. We have like a station that's called Me TV, and they play like all the old school classics like Happy Days and Welcome Back, Kotter and all that different stuff. And my dad loves that show, and we watch that from time to time. It's a really good show. Yes, it's awesome. So obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about Child's Play, but one thing that I would love our listeners and viewers to know is that you have a book coming out. A little birdie told me about this book. So why don't you take all the time that you need just to tell everybody what the book is about, what it's called, where and when it can be purchased, and everything you want to tell us about it.
Well, thank you. I'm actually very, very excited about this. The book is called The Real True Hollywood Story of Jackie Gold by Dinah Manoff, me. Took me a long time to write it. Took me a longer time to get it published. But I did get a wonderful publisher from Star Alley Books. And the book is available for pre-purchase on, welcometostaralley.com. And it's also available for pre-purchase on Kindle form at amazon.com. And for more information, you can go to my website, dinahmanoff.org. You can sign up to be on the newsletter there and find out more about the book. The book is not my story, but certainly I drew from my experiences growing up in show business in Malibu and being part of that world. It is a coming of age story. It has mystery in it. And it was really based on my experience with the tabloids when I was a young actress. And this is pre-cell phones. First of all, I want to say thank God there were no cell phones when I was a young actress, because it would not have been good for me. But before cell phones and before, TMZ, there were the tabloids, and they really hounded us actors and people. And so I wrote the book about an actress who is hounded by the paparazzi to the point where she jumps off a balcony to escape them, and then ends up in a coma telling her life story from this hospital bed. And it goes back and forth between the drama unfolding at the hospital, where she's fighting for her life, and her retelling of her life story that leads up to this moment when she's in the hospital. And it's very funny and very touching. And it was a story I felt I really, really wanted to tell. And so I'm so excited to have this book finally published, so that I can, get it off my computer for one thing, but bring my story out, not my Dinah Manoff story, but the story that I formulated, all those years that I was writing.
That's awesome. And I mean, I think it was your publicist, if I'm not mistaken. She sent me was it last week or a couple days ago, like, the links and everything. That way, when I'm doing my research to prepare for the interview, that I could, kind of know what the book is about. And I was looking into it, and it looks really good. Like, obviously I didn't pre-order it yet. I would definitely like to get
juicy. It's a juicy tale.
Yes. And I mean,
juicy Hollywood tale.
Definitely. And I love those type of tales. I mean, I know I'm pretty sure it's fiction, right?
Yes, it's fiction.
Yes. So it's definitely going to be something that I would be interested in. I like fiction and nonfiction stories. I like when it's based on something that, is of a reality, even if it's a fiction story, which we know Hollywood can be, what that book is going to entail. Because Hollywood can, pick you up and eat you and spit you out type of thing, like, and it can be one of the, it's a scary industry. It really is. And I definitely would like to pick
It's not as scary as Child's Play, but it's scary.
Absolutely. I mean, Chucky, oh my gosh, he terrified me as a kid. And it's funny because I'm going to tell this story too, because my boyfriend isn't here right now, but I took him to see the reboot of Child's Play, and he doesn't like horror movies to begin with, but I had to force him to take him, and he was like the whole movie. So I said, remember when we saw Child's Play? He's like, yeah. I said, well, I know you were afraid of that, but you might want to prepare yourself. You have a couple months, because Halloween Kills comes out in October. So but definitely the reboot was a lot different than the Chucky we all know and love. I did think the reboot was good, but I mean, there's nothing more better than the '80s original. Like, I'm a big '80s horror slasher movie fan, and Child's Play always has a special place in my heart. I'm glad to say I'm no longer afraid of Chucky, but it is one of my favorite classics that I really enjoy it. Which brings me to my first Child's Play question. What was your audition like for Child's Play?
Oh, well, I do remember reading for it in New York, where I was living at the time, and I, to be honest, I had just done a movie called The Bloodhounds of Broadway with a very, very, star-studded cast: Madonna, and Jenny Gray, and Matt Dillon, and a lot of big '80s movie stars. And it was like the talk of the town, but it paid me nothing. I mean, it was an independent. It paid nothing. It was just like super prestigious, and but I couldn't make the rent. So I had this other audition for this horror movie that I knew no one would ever go to see, but it paid, and it was called Child's Play. And I went in and I read, and it worked, and they hired me, and you know how the story ends. Literally nobody saw the Bloodhounds Broadway, and Child's Play was number one at the box office. It was like, oh boy, I have no instinct for this business at all. That was how I auditioned for Child's Play.
Awesome. And it's funny, like the one scene you had in the movie always makes me laugh. I could see it a million more times and I'll always laugh at it. When they first buy the doll and you're like, well, how do we know this doll isn't stolen or something like that? And he's like, ooh, and she's like, I think I dated that guy. That scene always makes me laugh. Yeah. I absolutely love it. And one thing I also love about this movie is your death scene. I really enjoyed it. It really is cool. So how was your death scene filmed and prepped, including the fall that you took from the window?
Let's see. It was in stages. First, they brought me to a sound stage to rehearse the going through the window. And what happened was they set up a window, and the stunt windows that people go through are, at least this one was, made of spun sugar.
Okay.
It looks just like a window, but it's sugar so that it will crack and not hurt anybody. And so they wanted me to, fall through this window, this spun sugar window. And I said, let's have the stunt girl do it first so I can just see how that's done. And so the stunt girl went through and got like cut up all over from the sugar. And I said, I'm passing. I'm passing on going through the actual window, but I'll get as close to it as you need me to. Right. And that's what happened. So when we filmed the shot, filmed that scene, and I did all the, thing of like, what's following me and what is that noise, and all that good fun horror film acting. When they got to the window, when Chucky hits me in the head with that little scary little hammer, I just went backwards, and then they went outside and shot the stunt of the body coming down through the window, which was of course not a real body. But
And the way, like I said, movie magic, it really does look realistic. Like, I mean, I think it really looks like you said, it's not a real body, but it really does look like a real body, which is amazing how you can do that in film. It really is. It's just so magical.
The magic of movies, Absolutely. And who knows today how they would have done it? Whether there would have been digital effects or everything changes so much in movies. Absolutely. That they could have done it a million different ways now.
Absolutely, definitely. I mean, there's so many ways, like you said. There's technology is advanced from 1988 that it could have been done. We could do it thousands of ways and it would look just as good, maybe even better. Who knows? But I think it looks really, really amazing. It really was. And like the scene where, like who's gonna believe that a doll is killing people? You know what I mean? That's the perfect gimmick. Who's gonna believe that? Now, did you ever own a Chucky doll?
No, I never
Never.
owned one, and I never want to own one.
That's how I always felt. I'll own
I
a Jason mask, but never a Chucky doll.
I've signed many a Chucky doll for many a fan, and Chucky posters, and I've had, I've done some autograph conventions, and there's always a few people online with their Chucky dolls to get signed. So, yeah.
That's awesome. It really is. It's really a cult classic. Like, the fan base is so loyal, and it's getting new fans all the time, from, children of the fans from the people that seen it in the 80s and the 90s, and that it really is a cult classic. And I mean, it's just amazing. Like, what is it, like at least a little over 20 years ago or whatever, 30 years even. And it's still got this big following. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
So what was it like working with Alex Vincent?
He's a little kid.
Was there any challenges with that?
No, it was just the easiest, nicest, best, cast and experience. Films aren't always like that,
Right.
and you would think in a horror film it would, maybe there would be more tension, but it was just, a great group, and I had a good time on it, and I loved working with Catherine Hicks, who's
Nice.
the sweetest human in the world, and it was fun, acting with her, and the kid was great, and
Right.
and the kids usually are great. The
Right.
kids that I've worked with, usually are pretty darn professional.
Absolutely.
And as was he. And the doll was, the guy who made, you probably remember the name of the guy who made the doll. I can't remember.
I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but yeah.
We should Google it right away.
Yes, absolutely.
But Catherine ended up marrying him. So
oh, wow, nice.
That worked out well.
That's really nice, actually. That's actually pretty cool. So, did you ever see Brad Dourif on?
I did. Yes, I did. He was fabulous, and
nice.
I was a big fan of his, so I was excited to work with him. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's really cool. So, what was the best part about filming Child's Play, and what was the worst?
Oh, well, I can tell you the worst part right off the bat was Chicago was so cold. I mean, Chicago is cold in a way that no place I've ever been. Even colder places are not as cold as Chicago. That wind hits you. And so, any of the outside scenes, we were like suffering out there. It was like your eyeballs froze.
Yeah.
And the best part of it was getting to do, I'm not a horror film fan or person, right. But I love Hitchcock. I love suspense. Yeah. And so I loved having the chance to do like suspense acting of like, what was that noise? Yes. That was like, to play with that medium was so like, awesome.
It really is cool.
That was a trip. I really enjoyed doing that. And then, going to the theater and seeing it. I went by myself in Westwood when it opened and sat there, and then, because horror films really scare me, once I was dead, I left the theater because I didn't want to see how things would turn out. Nice. So I've still never seen the entire movie, but I hear it was really, really scary.
It was. It really was, and that's what I mean. Just having a killer doll being possessed like that by a human spirit, like it really is creepy. And like I said, I interviewed Alex Vincent. He's such an amazing guy. And it's funny because when I started my interview with him, I started like I did with you. I started like every way, but I almost called him Andy. So after I introduced him, he goes, "I'm doing great, Scotty. Thank you for having me." He said, "You were going to call me Andy there, weren't you?" I'm like, "I'm sorry."
Yeah. Well, you can call me Maggie if you want.
Absolutely. So if there was anything you could change about your role in Child's Play, what would it be and why?
Oh, well, I would have lived so that I could have done all the other movies. I would be part of a franchise rather than getting knocked off in the first 30 minutes.
Absolutely. Wouldn't it be cool though, like if they brought you back as like Tiffany, the bride of Chucky, the voiceover?
I like it.
That would be
I
pretty
think you
cool.
should pitch it. I'm
I
up for it.
should.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Bride of
would be
Chucky,
awesome.
yes.
Maybe we can have like, I don't know, we could figure something out. Like I said, I'm a filmmaker. I write scripts and that too, so I can figure something out to work in a way.
Yeah.
We can get Jennifer Tilly, we can get Dinah Manoff both as the bride, one way or another, and Chucky, Brad Dourif as Chucky.
There are many, many scenarios where I see myself fitting in as,
Absolutely.
the ghost of Aunt Maggie, returning as,
That'd be awesome.
right.
That'd be really cool. And I mean, hey, they did bring back. I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't know how the Chucky TV series is going to be, but maybe if it isn't taken off of where the movie left off, maybe it's a different universe, so to speak. Like we do have Andy Barclay returning and all that. Maybe we'll see a Dinah Manoff on there, a Maggie Peterson.
Or will be revealed.
That would be awesome. Even in flashbacks, what was Maggie, up to when, before the whole, store thing, and the doll, her backstory. Maybe
the real true story
yes.
of Maggie, of Aunt Maggie. Yes.
The
real true Hollywood story.
I was just gonna say that the true Hollywood story of Maggie. That would be so awesome. So I don't have any more Chucky questions, but I do have a question about another movie you were in. You played Marty in Grease.
Yeah, Marty Maraschino.
What was that experience like?
Well, that's a whole topic in and of itself. Gosh, there's so many ways I can answer. What was that like? It was super fun. Super intimidating because I had never danced and sang before in front of people, and those are not my first best talents. So I was very nervous. I was extremely intimidated by John Travolta, who was the hottest, cutest, sexiest human being on the face of the earth, and I felt, like honored to be there all the time. Right. My favorite scene to film was Sandra Dee, because it was, Stockard and Jamie and Dee Dee and I were, we got on real well. And Olivia really was like a goody-goody, and we really were kind of more like bad girls. And so it felt like we were really torturing her in the scene where, Dee Dee pierces her ears and we get her drunk. So there was like a wonderful camaraderie. With all of us, right? With Olivia and the Pink Ladies and Sandra. That's awesome. So much fun to film.
That's really cool. So the last question I got for you, do you have any other projects, gigs, or appearances you'd like to promote? Any social media accounts or websites that you'd also like to promote to our viewing and listening audience?
Well, thank you for asking me, Scotty. I am retired as an actress. I am a writer. Nice. I coach actors. I teach. I also teach acting at a women's prison, or did up until the pandemic, which is my passion, to go in and do improv and acting exercises with the women who are locked behind bars and have less access to the fun and team spirit of acting. But now I am really out there getting my book on the shelves. That's my goal, is to get my book on the shelves and have people read the real true Hollywood story of Jackie Gold.
Absolutely.
So, come on to my website, dinahmanoff.org, and please, let me know, sign up. I think my publisher is offering the first 100 people to pre-purchase will get a signed copy. Awesome. And so, nice. That's it. I'm learning how to hawk a book.
Awesome.
That's what I'm doing.
Awesome. So before I let you go, I had one more question quick about your book. So obviously it is a fiction book, but is Jackie Gold based on like a real person, or is that just like a fictional name you came up with? And where'd you come up with the name?
Jackie Gold is based on, I would say, a couple of different people that I had in my mind, plus my soul. Awesome. I would say she's like a combination of Lindsay Lohan, Demi Moore, big movie stars in the 80s and 90s, and very much based on my Malibu upbringing,
Awesome.
because that was a very unique way to grow up, or one really never grows up in Malibu, but to be raised, I should say.
Right.
And I think it's a very identifiable story,
Awesome.
in terms of her coming of age.
Awesome. That sounds great. So everybody that is listening to this, that is watching this on YouTube or listening on the 25 plus podcasting platforms that whatever one you're listening to, Apple Podcasts, Google, whatever it is, make sure to pick up the copy of Dinah's book. Show us again.
The real true Hollywood story of Jackie Gold.
Awesome. So definitely pick up your copy, pre-order it, and you don't want to, miss out on it. Definitely get it. And like she said, first 100 people get an autographed copy. So make sure to get your copy of the book. It's definitely a must read. I will be picking up a copy of mine as well. So thank you so much, Dinah, for joining me.
Thank you, Scotty, for having me.
Not a problem. Make sure everybody to subscribe to me on YouTube if you're listening to it on YouTube, or to subscribe, rate, comment, review, whatever you can do on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other podcasting platforms I am on. Thank you again so much. It has been an honor to interview you. Thank you. You have a great rest of your night. Stay safe.
Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.